4 days before the 2025 inauguration, a UAE sovereign wealth fund bought a massive $500 million stake in a White House-linked crypto venture, and shortly after, the administration completely killed the restrictions stopping that exact same fund from buying advanced AI chips, setting the stage for an absolute $1.3 trillion market wipeout. The $1.3 trillion domino effect, unpacking the 2026 semiconductor collapse. This is the precise sequence of how a seemingly unstoppable tech boom got completely derailed by a brutal collision of supply chain realities, strict antitrust enforcement, and unprecedented geopolitical self-dealing. So, what actually triggered the $1.3 trillion semiconductor collapse of 2026? To figure out how this sudden mid-2026 market crash happened, we've got to trace the falling dominoes backward. We need to forensically uncover the hidden structural and political frictions that really set this whole thing off. Part 1. The Catalyst. Broadcom's $4.1 billion miss. The visible breaking point hit exactly on June 3, 2026, driven by a glaring discrepancy in Broadcom's Q2 earnings. Sure, they reported record overall AI revenue of $10.8 billion, which sounds great, right? But their AI networking revenue actually missed expectations by a full 14%. CEO Hock Tan pinned the blame on a slow custom chip ramp at two major hyperscalers, and man, that sent immediate panic rippling straight through the market. Part 2. Zero-sum production, the 2026 memory crunch. But here's the thing, Broadcom's networking miss was merely a symptom of a much deeper, systemic memory crunch bottlenecking the entire global industry. Major producers, like Micron, strategically redirected their limited output toward those high-margin data center customers. This totally starved the consumer electronics sector of essential components. Suddenly, we're looking at a ruthless zero-sum competition for global wafer and packaging capacity that was already totally maxed out. Because of this friction, Deloitte actually projected massive 50% price spikes for essential memory components by mid-year. That is enough to absolutely cripple downstream consumer sectors. So the physical foundation of the industry was cracking, but policy decisions at the very top were about to warp the market even further. Part 3. Geopolitics and Policy. The White House Financial Disclosures. As the physical supply chain fractured, U.S. trade policy simultaneously shifted in ways that directly mirrored the financial interests of White House officials. The timeline in these financial disclosures immediately raised massive red flags. Back in late 2025, entities tied to the president's family acquired a 20% stake in a Kazakh tungsten venture. Just days later, the administration signed a massive $1.6 billion federal financing agreement for that exact same mine. The timing is undeniable. Now, breaking China's monopoly on critical minerals is absolutely a legitimate national security goal. But as the Cato Institute reported, these specific deals present a sordid picture of, quote, transforming ordinary policy into family enrichment schemes. It raised serious questions about self-dealing at the highest levels. And this exact same pattern extended directly into semiconductors. The Bureau of Industry and Security stepped in and actually dismantled strict Biden-era export restrictions for AI chips. They pivoted away from a blanket presumption of denial to a much more lenient case-by-case review. Which brings us right back to that UAE connection from the start. Following that $500 million Abu Dhabi investment into a Trump-linked crypto firm, the White House killed those restrictions and agreed to sell the UAE 500,000 advanced NVIDIA chips. And get this, 1/5 of those were specifically earmarked for the wealth fund director's own AI company. In direct response to these fluid, highly politicized export controls, international players naturally scrambled. China's premier AI champion, DeepSeek, aggressively kicked off the development of its own in-house inference chips. Their goal was to permanently cut their reliance on Western silicon altogether. Part 4. The Regulatory Heat, the Antitrust Trap. Right as international supply chains were warping around all these geopolitical maneuvers, domestic regulators decided to drop the hammer on big tech's expansion strategies. The FTC and DOJ opened some very aggressive investigations, asking one central question. Were tech giants actually executing stealth acquisitions disguised as simple licensing deals and executive hiring sprees? Regulators started zeroing in on specific targets. They went after NVIDIA's licensing deal and their CEO poach from Grok. They scrutinized Meta's staggering $15 billion payout to essentially just hire scale AI CEO without doing an official acquisition. And they targeted Amazon for pulling founders directly from Adept AI. Unchecked big tech expansion had suddenly hit a massive regulatory block. On top of that, the DOJ's antitrust division issued direct subpoenas to NVIDIA regarding alleged unfair supply and pricing practices. They literally started questioning the legal standard for monopolization in the AI era. This brought the market leader's entire business model under severe, unprecedented threat. So, piecing it all together, this $1.3 trillion market wipeout wasn't caused by a lack of underlying AI demand. Not at all. It was triggered by a catastrophic collision of capacity crunches, blatant political self-dealing, and aggressive regulatory traps that caught the entire industry completely off guard. With the hardware pipeline so severely compromised by geopolitical favors and antitrust authorities actively dismantling big tech's core growth loops, we are left to ask one final question. How much of this seemingly unstoppable AI boom's foundation is actually built on sand?